But as far as the delegates and union officials are concerned, the delegates and union officials will be assembling and walking up to...
Hi.
Good morning.
Or is it afternoon? It's good morning.
It's still good morning. How are you?
I'm a delegation.
The Auckland-born midfield striker has been flown in to try and help Australs get back on the winning track. Mark has just left the Papatoetoe club and says the conditions are much the same here in Newcastle.
The setup is much the same as Papatoetoe, which I was playing for in New Zealand before I left. Same sort of ground setup, club rooms. The only thing I found is the people are a lot friendlier in the club compared to what a lot of clubs are like in New Zealand.
And the grounds aren't that much different from the land of the long white cloud after weeks of rain.
I think I'll go quite well. The grounds in New Zealand have just started to soften up before I left, and I managed to get a couple of games in before I came across here. So I think I'll adjust reasonably well.
Coach Willie Gallagher isn't wasting any time in checking out the form of his new charge and will put him to work tonight in an exhibition game.
In 20 years on the road, Arthur Krug has seen Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Central America, Mexico, and very soon he hopes to travel through India. At 76 years of age, it seems to Arthur that there are more hills than ever before.
You do as much of this as the riding.
And that isn't garbage he's carrying in those tins. Arthur believes his improvised panniers hold more and are more watertight than conventional carriers. There's no respect for age on the roads, and drivers can become impatient as Arthur makes his way around the globe. But he shows no sign of giving up.
Is there any point where you think you'll call it quits?
Sure, when I camp. Just like anything, when you camp, you quit. Till then, tough it out.
The recommendation regarding smoking in restaurants followed an Australian Institute of Health Surveyors draft proposal. That proposal would have enabled proprietors to decide if a restaurant was smoking or non-smoking, as long as it was clearly indicated which it was. But Council rejected that idea, adamant there will be a total ban on smoking in restaurants. It's now working on legal procedures.
And in the meantime, we asked the restaurateurs to do what they suggested they could do, and that is divide the restaurants into non-smoking and smoking areas.
Meanwhile, Council has decided tax office staff can begin moving into their new building on Monday, subject to the developer meeting certain conditions relating to parking.
The developer must put up $1.75 million to cover the cost of the parking. He must provide the parking by leasing it in existing facilities that have spare capacity for the next 6 months while the work is done. He must either get a development consent for the Queen Street parking station, which he has already proposed and which we have a development application in, or if that is not accepted by the council, he must find other parking within that time frame or forfeit the $1.75 million.
If those conditions aren't agreed to in writing by Monday, he says staff can't move in. On a separate issue, Council has given the green light to the $42,000 Stockton Health Study. With the money, Newcastle University will further examine the incidence of respiratory disorders in Stockton, Newcastle and New South Wales.
Favourite Hunter group Bill Powell's all-time dance band never missed a beat, with tunes like Rockabye Baby, Mary's a Grand Old Name and I'm in the Mood for Love. 63-year-old Irene Northey came here last year. Vince Buckley asked her to dance.
And what happened last year?
We met at the dance here and we haven't stopped dancing since.
Now Irene's second name is also Buckley. She married Vince last Easter. Some wives wish their husbands were well out of sight when embarrassing questions were asked.
What did you think of today?
Lovely, thank you. Very nice.
Were you here last year?
Yep, we were.
And how long have you been dancing?
Oh, years and years.
Any idea how many years?
60 years she's been dancing, love.
While Newcastle Lord Mayor Alderman John McNaughton managed to mix business with pleasure, his wife Margaret will probably have had some explaining to do when this dancer, obviously resting from swinging in more ways than one, revealed a secret rendezvous.
Lady Mayoress rang me up and told me I had to come in and have a dance with her.
And did you?
Yes. Well, I boxed for about 20 years and my dancing comes from my boxing.
After that enlightening tip on how to dance, 99-year-old Linda Pinkstone from Garden Suburb showed us how they probably did it when she was a girl.
In our opinion, old-time dancing will never fade away. It'll be here forever. The younger ones, they'll learn and they'll appreciate it as well.
It's been a great occasion and something that I hope will be done many times during the year.
But how does Newcastle's Lord Mayor dance?
Oh, he's wonderful, especially if we do the old-time waltz, which we both learnt that when we made our debut. But these people leave us for dead. They're wonderful.
Does he ever step on your toes?
Occasionally, yes, but then I'm not so crash hot myself, so it doesn't make any difference.
Both fighters are in great shape for the 10-round contest and they tapered off today. Harding is fighting up a division in the light heavyweights and this fight could open doors for a crack at a world title in that division. At Geary's gym, trainer Johnny Lewis and former heavyweight champion Joe Bugner cast an eagle eye over Harding and gave their nod of approval. While Bentley's gym was also putting the finishing touches to South American Nesta Giovannini, who is now ranked number 10 contender by the WBC. Giovannini will attempt to use pace in the first couple of rounds to try and work Harding out, and he looked very sharp but relaxed in training this afternoon.
James Stanley Baker, 37, appeared in Newcastle court on charges of attempted murder and indictable assault. He was arrested by Newcastle Police Child Mistreatment Unit yesterday after a 3-year-old girl was admitted to Mater Hospital on Monday, suffering a torn liver, internal bleeding and 3 broken ribs. Police alleged that on May the 8th, 3-year-old Angela Denise Clark was left in the custody of the defendant for 1 hour while the mother went shopping. During that period, it's alleged that the defendant punched the girl once, carried her to a bedroom where he wrapped her head in a blanket and held her face down on a mattress for between 5 and 10 minutes. Police alleged Baker had attempted to strangle the girl on 3 other occasions. They say she'd also previously suffered a fractured leg, wrist and collarbone. The girl's mother, Denise Robin McKenzie, attended the hearing. Police told the court the defendant was her boyfriend and that his attacks on the girl were a form of revenge because the mother had suffered a miscarriage. Bail was not applied for and not granted. The man will remain in custody to reappear in Newcastle Court on the 19th of May. Meanwhile, Angela Clark remains in hospital tonight, but doctors say she's been transferred from intensive care to the children's ward.
A spokesman for the Newcastle City Council claims developers Silcon obtained approval to develop a supermarket here on the corner of Date and Victoria Streets in 1987. But following the redevelopment of the Garden City shopping centre at Katara, he says the major tenant withdrew from the intention to lease the major part of the development as a supermarket. Attempts to attract another major tenant have been fruitless, as have attempts to sell the site with supermarket development approval. It's believed the developers now hope to make a return on the land by developing flats worth around $680,000. Council has also approved that development. The new buildings would front Date Street and comprise 2 3-storey buildings, each with 8 flats. It's expected the 5 existing buildings on the site, some currently rented out, will be demolished.
The Great Hall at Newcastle University was filled near to capacity for the graduation ceremony. With so many students receiving degrees and diplomas, 2 ceremonies were held today and there will be 2 more tomorrow. Honorary degrees in science were presented by the Chancellor, Justice Elizabeth Evatt, to Professor Warren Hogan, a noted economist, and John Varnum. Mr Varnum was at the centre of controversy on Tuesday when he indicated he would sue the ABC over allegations made on this week's Four Corners program. The 1989 graduation is the largest in the university's history, but in the 1990s the ceremonies will be even larger. Yesterday, the bill giving effect to the amalgamation of the university with the Hunter Institute and Newcastle Conservatorium was passed through Parliament, raising student numbers from 7,000 to 11,500. Peter Ryan reporting for NBN News. The women in the study have proved themselves with distinction in male-dominated fields, from working in heavy industry to studying applied mathematics. Each woman prospered in her chosen profession.
We're talking about the fact that women are quite capable of doing any work that they choose to do.
Reverend Christine Shepherd was the first female Uniting Church minister in the Hunter. Betty Shepherd was the first to be registered as a horse trainer. 13 of the 20 women featured attended today's opening. Florence Howard, who left school before she was 13, was a crane driver at the BHP, taking the job on during the war years. Joy Cummings, Australia's first female Lord Mayor. Cessnock politician Marie Callaghan says it's still a battle in politics as a woman.
Of course, you always experience barriers, and I think a lot of that's been shown in Cessnock the last 6 months.
Well, how do you get over that?
You keep fighting.
The collection will be on show weekdays until May 22nd.
It promised to be a battle of the coaches as much as the players, with former Falcons boss Bob Turner up against the flamboyant Ken Cole. The Falcons hadn't won a game this season and from the outset looked as though they would be winless after 5 matches. The Sydney Kings led handsomely for most of the game, stretching their lead at one stage to 22 points. Ex-Falcon Ian Rebilliard really enjoyed the tussle, and big Mark Dalton slammed one away late in the final term that gave the Kings a 19-point margin with just over 3 minutes to play. Then the Falcons hit their straps. Michael Johnson stole the ball and stuck it away for 2 big points, and then immediately Jerry Everett did exactly the same thing, and the Falcons were back in the game. Sean Dennis then played his part with another steal, steadied and dropped a super 3-point shot. It was all to no avail, however, as the Kings scrambled a basket and they were home by 3 points.
We have worked very closely with
Newcastle Chamber of Commerce hosted the formal contract agreement as Australian National Railways Managing Director Russell King signed on the dotted line, marking the start of work on 14 advanced technology diesel locomotives worth $35 million. The signing was witnessed by Transport and Shipping Support Minister Bob Brown. He described the deal as a boost not only for the Hunter's economy but also its prestige. The first of the super trains is scheduled to roll out of Gonninans in May or June next year. Although the company builds locos in Western Australia, it's the first contract of its type in Newcastle for more than 10 years. Gonninans director John Fitzgerald says the workshop is ready for the challenge.
Our partner General Electric is the leader in the world in this technology, so the combination of their technology and with our capability, have no doubts at all it'll be a magnificent locomotive.
Australian National plans to build 43 new locomotives, and Gonninans is anxious to see their contract renewed for the remainder of the rolling stock. Even so, Mr Fitzgerald says the present deal opens the door on international opportunities.
The waffle pod is a cardboard fibre slab footing system that eliminates the need for trenching and reduces building costs. Hardy's engineer Ken Rutledge says the pods are quite a unique but simple idea.
They're made of cardboard which is waterproofed on the outside, and there's an inner section that looks something like a wine carton inner, and that gives it its loading strength.
This slab was formed up in half a day, saving 3 days in building time and reducing costs to the owner in time and concrete. Once installed, the concrete is simply poured between and over the pods, resulting in a slab that is strong and is ductile to accommodate moving soils. Building inspectors, engineers and builders looked on at today's demonstration and all gave the waffles the nod. Mr Rutledge says the waffle pods have already proved their worth.
Here at Warrabrook, this is the second job in the area, which is a problem area because of the clay movement, and the job we did 12 months ago hasn't shown any cracks at all in the brickwork or the slab, whereas many houses in the area are showing cracks in the brickwork.
Sales representative Michael Hagan was back at work today, tidying up a few odds and ends before leaving for a team medical in Brisbane on Thursday.
Mike Hagan from TNT.
But it's his job on the paddock that has got the league fans, and more importantly the selectors, talking about the Newcastle playmaker. Hagan has chimed in perfectly with the night's game, dominating play around the rucks and scoring a feast of tries. The 24-year-old says he's very grateful to the Newcastle Knights, as the move north from Canterbury last year definitely boosted his chances with the Queensland selectors.
My decision to come to Newcastle was to play 5'8" on a regular basis, and at Canterbury I was in a position where I played half-back, centre, full-back in order to play first grade, and just the chance to play in one position on a regular basis and in a growing side, I think it certainly helped my chances.
Hagan's brother Bob played for Queensland and Australia in the 60s, a family tradition he'd like to continue. But does his selection for the Maroons mean he's next in line for King Wally Lewis's crown as Australian 5'8"?
I don't think Wally is ready to hang the boots up just yet, and he's probably got the Kangaroo Tour next year in the back of his mind, and apparently if he's feeling up to it and playing well, he'll play on next year, and obviously would lead the Kangaroos again. So, but it's just a good leg in the door, and if anything should happen to someone, well, you're halfway there more or less.
Meanwhile, centre Tony Kemp's bad luck continued last night with a 3-match suspension from the league judiciary following this tackle on Sharks fullback Jonathan Docking. Despite the fact the league recognised it was a reflex action aimed initially at the shoulders, the powerful Kiwi will miss games against Canberra, Gold Coast and South Sydney.
The lookout on a disused water reservoir has been the target of a prolonged campaign by neighbourhood vandals. Nothing has been left undamaged. The sundial has been torn apart, the hilltop cut and scarred, and safety railings torn down to be dragged into the empty reservoir as firewood. A brick shelter was so badly damaged it had to be demolished. As the vandals became more adventurous, they climbed a nearby tower, stealing a radio aerial. Now police are beginning to fear for the youngsters' safety.
The dangerous things that they're doing, we just don't want them to hurt themselves. That's the main thing at this stage, and we're just calling upon the public as a result of this publicity today that they may be able to assist us in information leading up to who the actual offenders are.
Lord Mayor John McNaughton was with police and water board officials during an inspection of the site.
It is suspected that they're juveniles, probably who live in this area of New Lambton. If that's the case, we can do something for them if we know about it.
The trail of damage extends through the Lookout Road underpass, where the tunnel is used as a practice range for petrol bombs. Outside, security lights have been smashed, leaving live 240-volt wires exposed. Youngsters even climbed into a stormwater drain which extends under the highway. Police know how far they crawled. Motorists have reported seeing arms waving from this culvert. Back at the lookout, the water board has welded shut reservoir inspection hatches, but that hasn't stopped the vandals in the past.
This hill virtually is all underground, and it's just a shell. And we're concerned that they're lighting fires down there, which we have proof of. And we didn't want another Newcastle obelisk situation where there may have been an explosion with gases, but we think that's highly unlikely, but the possibility is always there.
The bikies approached doorman of the Fanny's nightclub on Wharf Road soon after midnight. A group of 12, some were refused entry due to dress regulations.
There is a ban in all the clubs in the town on bikie groups wearing colours in the nightclubs, and they were refused admission. They walked around the side and spoke together for a short time, and then came and attempted to force their way through the bouncers at the front door of the club.
The blood-stained door and walls of the club are testimony to the battle that followed. Fanny's management and staff refused to comment on camera. However, the club's manager, who received a broken nose in the violent confrontation, praised the work of his 4 security men. 1 bikie and 4 of Fanny's staff were taken to Royal Newcastle Hospital with lacerations and severe bruising. 5 men have been charged with a series of assaults.